Hey vecino, good morning. ¿Ya tienes listo el café? Porque te tengo una plática pero sabrosísima. All right, ahora sí, let's talk. Well, there's a reason the phrase Somos Familia can create so much emotional conflict for many of us. And it has a lot to do with how our brains learned belonging growing up. Y vamos a hablar de eso. But before we do that, let me give you a scenario that perhaps is common to many of us. Mira, let me paint you a picture. Let's say you're at a family gathering, and maybe it's a birthday, maybe it's a quinceañera, maybe it's just a random Sunday carne asada, and everyone's there. Your tios are outside arguing about football, your tias are inside the kitchen judging everybody's cooking, and the kids are running around like locos, like they just drank like 3 Red Bulls. It's just like the normal Latino family energy. But then something happens. Someone walks into the party that you really weren't ready to see. And maybe this is someone who hurt you. Maybe they disrespected you. Maybe they burned a bridge a long, long time ago. But before you even have a time to process your feelings, someone leans over to you and whispers, Mijo, behave. Somos familia. And it's like that phrase alone is supposed to solve everything. Like the history doesn't matter, like the hurt doesn't matter, and like those 2 words are supposed to erase everything that happened. The expectation is just smile, eat your tacos, and pretend that everything is fine. If you've ever been in that situation, then you already understand the complicated emotional power of those 2 words, Somos Familia. All right, now, I'm going to invite you to grab your cafecito. And I want to introduce you to the Entre, Mundos podcast. This is a space for bicultural Latinos navigating life between cultures. Y aquí en este podcast hablamos de cultura, identidad, mental health, family expectations, and what it means to honor your roots, but without losing yourself. And now, before we go deeper in today's conversation, I just want to share a quick reminder. Even though I work as a trauma-informed counselor, this podcast is not therapy and it's not a replacement for therapy. Mejor, I'd like for you to think of this space as like a conversation with your favorite bicultural vecino who understands both cultura y psychology. Ahora, let's start. Mira, it's not a secret. Latinos usually place a high value on family. Unity and preserving the family is the expectation and at almost any cost. Yeah, this is that means ignoring or excusing the harmful behavior of some of our parientes. Y la cosa interesante es que the message that we hear at home is completely different from the message that we hear outside of it. Tú sabes, aquí en America, in the USA. But before we talk about that, let me give you an example of what happens when our families excuse harmful behavior. Imagínate. Just imagine someone in your family has crossed the line. They constantly cross the line. And maybe they talk bad about people. Maybe they disrespect boundaries. Maybe they create drama at family gatherings. And whenever someone finally speaks up about it, instead of the conversation being about holding that person accountable, someone in the family says, Es que así son. And of course, the classic, Pero somos familia. And suddenly the focus shifts. And instead of addressing the behavior, the pressure becomes keeping the peace. And now the person who spoke up is seen as the one who is creating the problem. If you happen to grow up in an environment, like in that kind of environment, you start learning something early on. And that's that sometimes family harmony matters more than individual truth. Y la cosa es que this can create a really confusing experience for people because on one hand, Latino culture teaches powerful values such as like loyalty and forgiveness, unity, supporting one another. But whenever those values are used to excuse harmful behavior, something else happens. People start feeling like their experiences aren't being taken seriously. And over time, that can make someone question themselves. They begin to ask themselves, like, hey, am I overreacting? Was that really bad? And that leads to another challenge that many bicultural Latinos experience. And maybe it's something that you've experienced too. That's the loss of self agency. Mira, I hear this story a lot. Someone in the family hurts you, and then you decide that you need space. A lo mejor you even stop attending certain gatherings for a while, pero then suddenly the messages comienzan a llegar. Your abuela is sad that you're not coming. And your tío says that the family should be together. Mija, don't hold on to grudges. Somos familia. And little by little, the pressure builds. Y en vez de hablar de lo que realmente pasó, the question becomes, when are you going to stop being so difficult? And this is how and where people start to lose self agency, their ability to decide what's healthy for themselves. And here's the part that most people don't talk about. One of the reasons that this feels so emotionally intense is because our bodies are wired to protect connection. And whenever you grow up in a culture where family connection is extremely important, your system learns that belonging equals safety. So when conflict happens in your family, your nervous system, your brain, and your body might feel a little guilty. They might feel anxiety. You might feel the pressure to fix things quickly, even when you're still hurting. And what it is, it's your system is trying to protect the relationship. But protecting connection doesn't always mean ignoring your own experience. There's one emotional experience that almost nobody talks about. And that's what happens when love, loyalty, and anger show up in the same room. This is where many bicultural Latinos, first generation, second generation, experience emotional confusion. You might genuinely love your family, you might deeply respect your culture, but at the same time, you might feel hurt or frustrated by certain dynamics. So you end up holding two emotions at once. You end up holding love and resentment, loyalty and exhaustion, respect and anger. And when those emotions collide, people start doubting themselves, start thinking, maybe I'm just too sensitive, or maybe I should just get over it. And over time, that can really make it hard to trust your own feelings. Y mira, this tension becomes even more complicated when you add bicultural life into the mix. Inside many Latino families, the message is family comes first. But outside of the family, especially in American culture, the message is often protect your peace, set boundaries, take care of yourself. So bicultural Latinos grow up navigating two completely different value systems. One that is focused on collective loyalty and the other that is focused on individual autonomy. And sometimes it feels like whichever direction you go into, you're going to end up betraying someone. One thing that I've learned when I worked with bicultural communities is that these tensions don't mean that something is wrong with you. They often just mean that you're navigating two cultural realities at the same time. And family loyalty is a beautiful value, but loyalty doesn't mean that you have to abandon your truth. And this is where living Entre Mundos can actually become a strength and not just a challenge. Living between cultures often means learning how to balance multiple truths. You see, you can value family, you can also respect your culture, you can appreciate the importance of forgiveness, and you can still honor your own healing process. Sometimes the most important work bicultural people do is learning how to carry forward the values that nourish them while allowing other expectations to evolve. And that is part of what it means to live entre mundos, honoring your roots without losing yourself. Okay, so before we wrap up, I first want to thank you for taking a cafecito break with me today. And if this conversation resonated with you, I invite you to take a moment and reflect on it this week and also sit with this question. When have I heard the phrase Somos Familia used in ways that felt supportive? And when has it felt like pressure? And if you happen to know someone who might need to hear this conversation too, compártelo. Send them this episode because these conversations are the things that many of us grew up feeling but rarely heard spoken out loud. If you'd like to continue the conversation, you can also follow me on Substack, TikTok, and Instagram under Entre Mundos Collective, where we explore culture, identity, and mental health from a bicultural perspective. And of course, don't forget to tell all your vecinos about your favorite bicultural vecino who understands cultura y psychology. But until next time, take care of yourselves, take care of your people, and keep honoring your roots without losing yourself. Un abrazote fuerte. Hasta luego. Bye.